Fox News alert, tragedy in Minneapolis. After a shooter opened fire during a morning mass at a Catholic grammar school. 2 children killed, 8 and 10 years old, and 17 others were rushed to the hospital. 14 of them were children, but police say they're all expected to make it, thankfully. K-8 students were marking the first week of school when bullets started blasting through the windows of the church.
During the mass, a gunman approached on the outside, on the side of the building, and began firing a rifle through the church windows towards the children sitting in the pews at the mass. Shooting through the windows, he struck children and worshipers that were inside the building. The shooter was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children.
Students were ducking for cover as round after round pierced through the pews.
All right, so that's the police describing the situation that these young children had to endure, and then 2 of them didn't make it. The mayor of the city steps forward and begins to give this. You see, when we continue to say that leftists and Democrats run interference for the worst kinds of individuals in our society, and people think that it's just rhetoric or it's just us saying stuff. And when we say, look, it's really difficult to figure out how people can support some of these policies when you can see the actual outcome. For example, they're all stepping forward to claim that this has to do with more gun control on top of the already existing gun control that's taking place in these cities. It's asinine that they have the gall to stand in front of the camera and begin to have those conversations when parents are mourning their children.
One 10-year-old said his friend saved his life.
We just got into mass, and it was like 3 minutes after. It was very scary. It was like my friend got shot in the back.
Oh my goodness.
He was like laying on top of me, like making sure I was safe, and he got hit.
Oh my goodness.
So that was really brave of him.
And you have a nick on your neck?
Yeah, that was, I don't even know what it's from. Kind of looks like debris or something.
But that came from during this?
Yeah.
How are you feeling? You seem pretty put together here, but it's got to be tough.
Yeah, I'm just like confused kind of because I never thought it would happen.
You know, I can relate with how he's feeling in the sense that as a young person, the reality of what's happened doesn't dawn on you till maybe when you're much older. So he's still unaware of the fact that the kids that didn't make it, and maybe they weren't his friends, or maybe he didn't know them, but it begins to dawn on you eventually. Eventually it does. It's important to have these conversations because I mean this isn't the first incident of this kind. We had the incident that took place in Nashville, the Covenant School shooting in Nashville. Of course, mainstream media wanted us to believe that there was no real motivation. No one knew why this individual, of course, another transformer individual, did that. Why is it that when these acts of violence are perpetrated against people of faith, and when I say people of faith, I'm referring to the Christian faith, the mainstream media tends to kind of sidestep the issue that this is targeted violence against people of the Christian faith? Because when that happened in Nashville, they did everything they could to wiggle and wrangle their way out of the conversation around how these people who've taken up a new identity that they were not born with have decided that the enemy to their reality is people of the Christian faith. And then when you start digging deeper, it gets very clear why.
This should never have happened. But how did it? The shooter was identified as 23-year-old Robin Westman. Robin changed his name from Robert back in 2019 when he was a minor. His mother submitted the name change on his behalf. The court documents say the minor child identifies as female and wanted her name to reflect the identification. So Robert changes his name to Robin and mows down pews of kids at a Catholic school church and then offs himself in the parking lot.
And then when you have repeated incidents of this happening, like the repeat incidents of radicals from a certain other faith who routinely blow up other people and murder other people in the Middle East, the mainstream media pretends like it isn't connected. What they believe is not connected to how they act. So leave a comment, leave your thoughts in the chat. I can see the activity on the poll. Thank you so much for reacting to the poll. But let me ask you a question while we're looking at all of this, and leave your answer in the chat. Should religious schools have special protection under the Constitution? We have special protection for transformers, for people who want to believe that up is down and down is up. And since the United States is doling out all of these protections like candy, how come people of faith, of the Christian faith, don't enjoy the same protection? It's just a question. It's a question. How did the United States go from a nation where every community revolved around the church house? Everything, the church house was the center of the community, of everything that had to happen in the community long before the courthouse. How did the United States go from being such a God-centered Christian nation to a nation where the laws have been systematically rewritten to be hostile to the same group that were responsible for providing freedoms to people who now attack them? So let me know in the chat what you think. Should religious schools have special protection under the Constitution, like all these other groups that have all of these protections? Let me know in the chat.
And it wasn't just a random church. His mother used to work there.
CNN
reports Westman.
Look, now the plot thickens. Their mother used to work at this Catholic school. Their mother, a few years ago, submitted a name change for her child who decided that up is down and down is up, and she wanted to legalize it. So is there some bitterness going on there? What do you think? Is there some resentment going on there? Because the same thing happened with the Nashville Covenant School shooting. There was a connection, if we recall that incident. So there's always this connection where there's some resentment about the fact that someone decides to believe differently from the community, and then instead of simply saying, okay, I'm good, I'm no longer a part of this community because I don't believe what your holy scriptures say. And what do they do next? They pick up violence against that community. That's exactly what we're seeing. All right. So it's telling when you begin to go through these stories, and then you begin to uncover these subtle hints that this wasn't a random act of violence.
And actually graduated from there in 2017. And this morning he showed up with a rifle, shotgun, and pistol.
So he graduated from the school in 2017.
Hours before the shooting, Westman posted a 20-minute video where he paged through a manifesto, described himself as severely depressed and suicidal. He fantasized about the Sandy Hook massacre and said he loves to see kids get shot. The morning shooting was obviously premeditated because there was a drawing of the floor plans in his notebook. The video also shows Jesus' face as target practice. Westman wrote things on his weapons, such as, "Where is your God? Israel must fall. Nuke India. Suck on this and kill Donald Trump."
Yeah, so again, people who believe a certain way, who have abandoned faith, let me ask a question. Is it possible that after seeing all of this evidence that we should try to wrangle our way away from the obvious, that this is someone who has clearly rejected Christianity, hates Christianity. I mean, the Democrats and their leadership will say that a certain group engages in hate speech, and that's such a bad thing, and that the hate speech is dangerous. People fear for their lives, and the people who are actually losing their lives are the ones who are being attacked by these adjustments to the legal system. It's difficult not to see all these things play out. And you know what? In a few weeks, the sad thing, and you and I know this. In a few weeks, everyone moves on. The news cycle changes. Mainstream media finds something new to rage about Donald Trump, and all of this will be forgotten. But the Democrat leadership in Congress will begin to double down more about gun control. And they want you to believe that there's no connection between the mental state of the people who engage in these attacks and the actual incidents. They want you to believe that the presence of firearms in a community or in a home automatically equals gun violence. That's the narrative. Amy Klobuchar already jumped on MSNBC, TDSBC, to begin her spiel for more gun control. They had this, I'm trying so hard not to pick my word. They had this guy who is so ignorant about guns, and that's the thing about these platforms. They have people show up to talk about guns who know nothing about guns. This guy says, he says that a semi-automatic releases dozens of bullets with one squeeze, when a semi-automatic simply releases one bullet. He's describing a fully automatic weapon, and he's lying on national TV, claiming that they need more control on semi-automatics. Semi-automatics are single release firearms. So you're going to have more of this happening. They're going to continue to twist and turn and conflate things to try to get these laws passed to take away firearms from law-abiding citizens. And like I keep saying, that's the playbook of communists and socialists. Disarm the public, own the monopoly of violence, and then they can begin to take away more of your rights.
The FBI is investigating this as an act of domestic terror and a hate crime targeting Catholics. But police say they don't know anything.
Really?
We don't have a motive at this time. Obviously, we're open to any possibilities at all, but we don't have a motive.
The media says the motive doesn't matter. It's the gun's fault.
I think it's either like you have to be honest and say what will actually work, which is what nobody wants to hear, which is that there are just simply way too many firearms and they're way too accessible. And even if
they're too powerful,
and they're too powerful, even handguns too.
So like I said, very predictable. They're going after the gun. How has that changed these deep blue cities and states where they have excessive gun control, and yet violent crime is through the roof? Look at Washington, D.C. It's the criminals who have access to the guns, and they know how to get them illegally. So the important thing is that you're aware of what's going on. Don't sleepwalk your way into a situation where all of your rights are gone and you think you're still living in the same country. You're not. Because if you do not engage in what's going on in the conversation that's happening in the public space, for example, hey, put a chat in there to say what you think about what's going on. And most of us who are conservatives don't want to put anything in the chat because we're too busy. We're too busy taking care of this other thing or that other thing. Thanks to the guys who are responding to the poll. And we're seeing that 67% of you believe that the main issue that you're concerned about is safety of Christian schools nationwide. And that's what we're discussing right now, because if people don't have the means to defend themselves, you can't post security operatives in every single location. What these people look for are soft targets where they know that there will be zero resistance. And of course, places of worship are prime targets because Christians believe in being passive and not defending themselves, which there's a conversation to be had there. These are soft targets. People who don't believe in violence, who don't believe in attacking their enemies, are prime targets to be overrun by people who believe that that if you can, you should attack people that you don't agree with. And that's the problem with the leftist narrative on full display here. So we're going to wrap up our look at Fox News. Then we're going to look at TDSBC. They don't disappoint. Of course, this is footage from their feed. Okay, they're basically jumping on the bandwagon, talking about the fact that no guns, no guns. All right, please don't forget to leave a like. Please just hit the like and let YouTube know that this video is meaningful to you.
So a suicidal transgender who hates Trump's Christians and Jews shoots up kids at a Catholic school, and the media wants to take away your handgun.
Yeah.
So how are we supposed to protect ourselves from trans shooters?
Yep.
The media is bad at pattern recognition. We aren't. Just 2 years ago, another trans 20-something walked into a Christian school in Nashville with a rifle and shot 3 kids and 3 adults.
Yep.
They buried the manifesto and locked down the case.
Yep.
We've seen...
And that's the thing, like, these people can't help themselves. And when I say these people, those who perpetrate the violence, they can't help themselves because they want the world to know why they did what they did. And so they usually have these manifestos. And when you have the United States law enforcement telling you that they don't know why something happened, I believe that they're lying. And I want to be honest, like, this isn't something that just happened in a dark corner 20 years ago. That's an unsolved crime. This is today, where everyone lives online. You can get whatever information you need from surveillance, from phones. Like, these are people who were able to locate grandmas and grandpas who took a leisurely stroll into the Capitol building. They traced them to their homes. They found them, broke down their doors, arrested them, and sent some of them to jail. They know how to find these people. So when they tell you we don't know, they're lying. They're lying.
Seen trans shootings in Colorado and in Maryland. They even shot up an ICE facility in Texas. And it seems like half of Antifa's trans. A couple of they-thems just got popped for firebombing Teslas. The mayor of Minneapolis says you can't say that.
Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity.
Yeah, so now you are being gaslit into not speaking up and saying there's something about this whole situation with Transformers. Why is it that you have a disproportionate number of them doing these things? It's a conversation to be had. And when you start having public figures like the Minneapolis mayor saying, don't say anything, you saying something is termed as villainizing them. For example, I wouldn't be surprised if I, go a couple of hours after the stream is over and YouTube decides that this video is problematic and shouldn't get the coverage that it should get. I wouldn't be surprised because of the words that have been said in the footage and some of the things that I am alluding to. I'm trying I apologized earlier in the video, but no matter how hard we try to communicate these things, they will always find a way to muzzle our conversations around these issues. There's a real situation here that needs to be looked at. And if we continue to keep quiet about it, we're going to wake up in 10, 15, 20 years and find out that these people who should receive proper help have been let loose on the society, and everyone is exposed to the fallout. So the mayor of Minneapolis right now is shaming common sense people into silence by saying, if you take this as an opportunity to villainize people of this group who currently have disproportionately shown a propensity for violence against people that can't defend themselves, and for engaging in violence against people who don't agree with them, you are a problem. We're going to keep seeing that narrative play out. And you know what? If this happens again, and history tells us that it will, unless something changes, you're going to have them saying the exact same thing about this situation. Don't talk about it. If you talk about it, you're hateful.
We should not be operating out of a place of hate
for
anyone.
Here we go.
We should be operating from a place of love for our kids.
I don't hate anyone who thinks they're trans. I feel sorry for them. But statistically, the trans population has been prone to violence. That's not villainizing, that's reality. And if you can't recognize reality, you're in danger. We love the American people, especially American children. And if they're troubled and believe they're somehow a girl trapped in a boy's body, we want to get them help. We don't want to give them hormones and operate on them. Society shouldn't be trying to produce more trans kids.
Yeah, so that's the thing about leaning more to the fringe ideas that the left wants to push. They talk about these fringe ideas. They want to change the laws to suit fringe realities. I have another question for you. All right. Now, based on what we just saw the mayor of Minneapolis say, and some of the things that you're hearing from the media, and we're going to hear from the media, is the media bias against Christians getting worse? Or are we just noticing it more? It's a good question. I remember televangelists being mocked in the 80s. And for me as a child, it was comedy. But it seems to me that this has always been the case. So let me know in the comment section or in the chat if you think that media bias against people of Christian values or of common sense values has gotten worse, or if we're just noticing it now more because of the pervasion of social media and so on. Now let's listen to what TDSBC has to say. We heard a bit of the footage, but let's hear what they have to say. And then we'll look at the comment section and then move on to the next story. But please do let me know what you think in the chat. Give me your thoughts. And then we will also be looking at your input on this story.
How grave of a situation they may be, and hopefully how many survivors there are. Again, you saw some kids walking out of the school there, which is a great sign. They have identified that reunification point where kids can go to be reunited with their families. And, I've spoken to a lot of parents as well during this time, and it's always difficult.
And we're going to go now to join the network. Here's Kira Phillips.
This is an ABC News special report.
All right, sorry, mislabel. Okay, I will not denigrate the good name of ABC. Okay, so this is ABC, not TDSBC.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. We are coming on the air with reports of a school shooting in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That shooting occurring at Annunciation Catholic School. All of this during the first week of classes. We are told the gunfire erupted during school drop-off. There are reports of multiple victims. We cannot confirm a number right now, but police are clearing buildings in the area, saying that the shooter has been contained.
All right, so I'm going to skip forward. I want to immediately get to the conversation that is being had. All right, so let's listen to what he has to say.
This incident, happened again on the first day or second day of school. First week of school. From what I understand, possibly they were on their way or in mass at a Catholic school. So all the kids were brought together. We don't know enough about the shooter yet. Because he is dead, they should be able to identify him fairly quickly. But we don't know if this was targeted at a person at the school itself or was just to cause terror to an unknown or unconnected target.
Okay, so what we have seen over the years is that the people who do these things at these schools don't exactly have a problem with anyone in particular. They have a problem with the community. And what they try to do is they try to inflict as much pain on the community by doing. That's what we have seen again and again. And when you see that this is happening more often to locations that are mainly populated by people of Judeo-Christian faith, it becomes very clear that the communities being targeted in these kinds of attacks are people of Christian faith.
The investigation is going to go directly into his motive. Why did he do this, and why was he attacking these children? Again, we just don't know if how many victims there are. If it's multiple victims, were some targeted and others just happen to be in a terrible place at a terrible time, or was this the intent of the shooter? This is everything that the FBI is going to be looking at as they move forward. They're going to be looking at motive. They're going to be looking at opportunity. They're going to look at all the whys and wherefores. They're going on social media. They're going to do a complete background into the shooter and find out why he did this. That's going to be the focus of the FBI investigation. At the same time, you've got first responders who are dealing immediately.
All right. I'm going to skip forward a little because, to be honest, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste your time. So I'm going to go straight to the point where they talk about gun control, because that's what we find again and again. We keep running into this conversation that the important thing is controlling your ability to get firearms to protect yourself. Okay, so we're going to just go straight into that narrative. But look, again, we have a poll that's running. All right. The question is, what is the most important thing for you based on this story? What's your biggest concern? Is it the media cover-up of religious targeting, or is it the safety of Christian schools nationwide? And we have 75% who say that it is the safety of Christian schools nationwide. All right. So we want to have a conversation around this. I don't want to take too long on this story. We already got the feedback from MSNBC in the previous footage, and we're just going to move on to the next story. I'm having a hard time finding the specific reference gun control, but we've heard it already from MSNBC. They want us to settle into the idea that the problem was the gun and not the fact that the people who perpetrate these acts of violence need help. The next story that we're going to be diving into, Jen Psaki decides that she wants to spin this into a situation where there was it's crazy, but let's hear this footage and then react to it. Okay, so Jen Psaki from TDSBC in top form. Let's go.
And as usual, some people out there.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Here's the thing. I want to apologize. Okay. I totally forgot. I had promised that we were going to go through the comment section. All right. So let's start with the comments in ABC. All right. I'm going to I apologize. I dove too soon. All right. It appears our nation has more problems than we understand. We better get our own house in order before suggesting how others can improve theirs. I agree. Self-inflicted, not self-conflicted, ma'am. Those poor babies. WTF is wrong with people? Yes, and that's the question that should be answered. Why do people from these groups tend to do things like this? It's a very simple question that needs to be explored. All right. This is so heartbreaking. Some people say stricter gun laws could have prevented this. Others say expanding access to mental health care could have prevented this. In reality, it's going to be a combination of those two things. There was a time in American life where high schoolers would come to school with shotguns, with hunting rifles, and leave their guns in their cars go into school, have class, then after school, get into their trucks and go hunting. Were there incidents of school shooting then? You'd be hard pressed to find any. You would. It's not about gun control. If the United States of America had a season when high schoolers routinely came to school with guns and they didn't shoot up the school, then it is not about the gun. Why does the president not speak to them instead of writing on social media? Look, it is people like this, okay, that you know, who have a severe case of TDS. If he spoke to them in the background and didn't post on social media, they will jump up here and say he never spoke to them and he never showed compassion, that he's a narcissist and that he doesn't like people. So there's no point responding to him. I'm sure that people in the president's office, make the connection because historically he's done that. This is spiritual warfare, prayers for the families. I agree. Yesterday, I was shocked that ABC was so balanced. When I say balanced, it has a healthy dose of the two halves of the society. People who don't love God and those who do. And we're seeing it again today. And then finally, this comment, this made me fall in love with Jesus all over again. This is very important because to raise well-balanced children, I believe that you need to introduce them to Jesus. I believe that strongly. My motive in life before giving my children a college degree education is to make sure that they know Jesus. That is my aim in life. Because once they know Jesus, I am offering to society well-balanced, decent, God-fearing, productive human. A college degree will not do that. And we see that again and again in America's liberal school. On the Fox side, Victor, the boy who protected his friend, is braver than any of these coward politicians. Yeah, because they jump up and begin to say things that they think resonate with their base, who want more leftist policies to be put in place. Mostly, they're pissed that society won't go along with their delusion, which is what a lot of people believe. I'll give this a like. All right. Tampon Tim, who was standing in the background, is the worst governor ever. Okay. Tim Walz is a coward who will never be a leader. This is exactly why we need God more than ever before. Enough. I agree. I always tie these incidents to the thing that happened in the 60s where prayer was taken out of schools, the reading of scripture. And then the left went even further to removing the 10 commandments from public spaces. And they said, no, we don't want America to be controlled by the religious. There has to be a separation of church and state. And then they replaced it with a new religion, with the multicolored flag. That's a religion, because what they believe makes no sense. It makes no sense. It doesn't make. I have people who are watching that maybe have gotten turned off to what I just said. But honestly, come on, guys, come on. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. If I choose to believe something and I want to live my life that way, that's okay. But when I try to impose that on you and write laws that force you into doing things the way I want to do them, then there's a problem there. No matter how much you write a law that claims that gravity doesn't exist, it doesn't change the fact that gravity exists. You can't write a law that says anyone who acknowledges the effect of gravity is engaging in hate speech. Then it goes into the arena of delusion and evil. Because the thing that's meant to protect people, where you warn them, don't jump off that 5-story building because of what? Gravity. Okay, gravity is not Voldemort. But people write laws so that we can't say these things in the public space, like here on YouTube. I've spent the last 40 minutes dancing around, dodging phrases, using symbols just to avoid being dinged by YouTube. Because a few people got together and decided that they want to make laws that forces people to ignore reality.